All right, hey there traders, Sam here from TradeDevils-Indicators, and today I have a short introduction to our order flow footprint indicator, now available for Sierra charts. Now, I'm starting here on our web page. This really serves as both a virtual brochure as well as I guess you'd call it an online manual for this indicator. Now, we're going to go through much of this here. I'm going to leave a lot of the exploration to you because this is a very, 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 very long web page. And because there's so much information within a footprint indicator with regard to parameters, things that you can tweak, adjust to your liking. Now, one thing before we get too far, this is important. Now, I'm recording this on Saturday, November 11th, and this literally just happened this morning. One thing about Sierra, they insist that you be running the most current version if you were using any third-party indicators. So if you were to, well, perhaps you've made the purchase or you're considering a trial of this indicator or any of our indicators for Sierra, it's important that you be running the most current version. So we're just putting this little installation note here that to be sure that you have version 2564, which was just released today. Otherwise, none of our indicators will work for you whether you're trialing them or you've made a purchase for Sierra. So that's just an important note here, and this shows you how to do it. It takes literally 15 seconds. But once you have that done, then the indicator will work just fine. You'll get to it the same way. Now, many of you, I suppose, will have some familiarity with Sierra charts, I suspect. So you'll know how to get to indicators, but we're going to go through some very basic stuff here, as this is more an introduction to it, not so much application of how to trade a footprint chart, just an introduction to what we've made available to you, and then you can look for, well, a combination of content that we've done for the Ninja version of this, but there will be some more content coming for applications with Sierra. So with that said, let's just back up here and just be sure that you, again, if I do this too fast, it's going to make you dizzy. I mean, there's so much in here. You really have to kind of work through it slowly. And now, again, if you're an experienced footprint trader, you're going to know most likely what you're looking for, at least have a starting point. If you're just getting started with footprint charts, this can be a little bit overwhelming. And so there's some experimentation that I would encourage you to do as you look through it, because it looks like, oh my God, look at all the cool stuff I can do. Well, yeah, that's true, right? So some of it you might find not useful to you. Some of it, again, if you're experienced with a footprint chart, might be just the kind of thing you've been looking for you couldn't find in other footprint indicators. So there is a lot here with regards to what you want to see. So it's not unreasonable that no two footprint traders may trade it or set it up exactly the same way. Now, I'm going to show it to you in the default settings, which, aside from a few color changes, I tend to keep it as simple as I can. I just work with a BidAsk, and then I highlight things that are important to me, that I'm looking for when I'm trading. You might have very different things that are of interest to you that you would want to highlight. But the point of a web page like this, again, I know it's so long, it'll make you dizzy if I keep doing this. But it would be, I think, worthwhile for you to work through this if you're unfamiliar. Like, okay, well, what's a zero print? What exactly is a thin print? Why do I care? Those are kind of things that would be important, again, based on your experience level working with a footprint chart, to do some testing with, and first understand them as to why it would be something we would make available for you to want to identify. So if a sweep happens, why do you care? Right? Same thing with unfinished business. Why would that matter to you? Again, if you have experience with footprint charts, you'll know exactly why that matters. If not, well, there's a couple of different resources for you. We have quite a bit of educational content, as you'll see up here, on many of the signals and the features that are built into this product. Now, these are all done on Ninja, because the only difference here is the platform, right? The underlying indicator and the event is exactly the same, whether it's Sierra or Ninja, right? The only difference is how you get to them, how you highlight them. So if you were looking here at what a delta trap is, and you saw the explanation on the Ninja version, well, it's going to be exactly the same here. You're just going to highlight it or access it in Sierra slightly differently. So let's go ahead and do that, so you know this resource is here, and then also as well on our YouTube channel you'll find a good number of videos about application with a footprint chart, and I'll let you kind of discover those on your own. So let's go over to the footprint chart here applied to, this is, again, I'm recording this on Saturday the 11th of November, so we all know, assuming you were trading on Friday, we all know what happened on Friday, right? We just a monster raging bull market on Friday. So because the price range was so extreme, I'm doing this on a 5-minute just so we can actually, we're not scrolling for days through all of the price action here. But this actually, I like to keep a 5-minute up myself, so this might be something you consider. But here, again, this is an exact duplicate of what we've made available for Ninja. Again, the only difference is how you get to things. So with the footprint indicator here, I'm assuming some basic familiarity with Sierra charts. Well, first is how do you add it, right? You're going to get to any custom studies here, which a third-party vendor like us would be found here. We'd go to add a custom study, and here, based on what you've downloaded or trialed or purchased, you'll find your custom studies. Well, here I've got an initial balance on here. I should note here, you can see what all of the tools that we've made available now for Sierra charts. But what I'm going to focus on here, if we're going to add a custom study, it would be the footprint chart. Now I have the initial balance on just so we can frame the day. Just a price line, but then all these four here make up the footprint indicator collectively. Now there's certain just limits within Sierra with regards to how much you can build into one individual indicator. So we actually end up with 4 of them. One being specifically to the pullback column, which is unique to Sierra, which we'll look at the very end. But the content that you would be familiar with here will be in the first, the third, and the fourth. So let me just open these up here, and we'll just go to settings. So this is the kind of stuff you'd be very familiar with in any footprint chart. Left and right sell. What do you want to see? Now again, this is the default here, and you might look at this and say, okay, well that's a good starting point, but I want to, I don't know, brighten the colors up here. So when we go here and we'd say, okay, I want those to be, I want them to be a little bit brighter here, and we'll click OK, and then we'll apply. Right. So here, so all I've done is just change the left side, the left column here. So I've gone left neutral here, and I've just brightened up that color. You might say, well, I couldn't quite see it. I'd like it a little brighter. That's the, these are just personal preferences. Would be the same thing down here if we wanted to go lighten up on the right side. We'd do the same thing here. I think that's the same color I just used, and we apply that and go OK. Well, I think maybe I did it wrong here. Let's go back here. Let's get back to where I was. Let's get that right column here. Oh, pardon me. I'm not doing right column. I'm doing right column here. All right, so let's get that over here. All right. All right, there we go. That's what I was after. So I'll again just brightened up the colors, right, of the BidAsk, right? So now, again, by default, you're going to see many of the features and parameters that we encourage as a good starting point here. So we've got stacked imbalances, thin prints, exhaustion prints. A few of the delta signals are highlighted here. So here's a delta slingshot that's got a stripe on it. Here's a delta trap, A for a trap. That's got a stripe on it. Now, all of these signals based on your preference, right? Of course, you can put a stripe on them if you'd like. You don't need to. It's just an option. It's just an option if the eye is going to be here, but perhaps you're in the heat of the battle, you didn't notice, oh hey, I've got a delta slingshot here or a delta trap here, and that stripe can be just a reminder to heads up. So let's just go through that again. I'm going to go back to studies here. I'm going to stay on the top one, which where we're really focusing on what's in the candle. Color choices, what you want to see. You might decide, oh, on the left side, okay, all I want is BidAsk, and on the right side, I want delta, or I want total volume. Well, that's where, if I come back to this here, where you can start to look at, okay, what do I want to see? Let's go up a little higher, I think. What do I want to see, right? So here's some examples. If I wanted bid ask, and I wanted to emphasize delta. If I wanted to emphasize, if I wanted the delta to have a color sourcing or balance on it. Here's bid ask on the left, and if I wanted total volume here or delta. Again, these are all individual choices. Here, if I wanted the entire bar, bid ask on the left, here's the candle. I might have delta and then total volume in there. Now, we're going to get to things here that are very specific to perhaps the market that you're looking at. So if you're looking at a 5-minute on the NQ, you might find that if you don't aggregate a few of the ticks, that it's going to be just too hard to read. So here, that's what we're giving you here. Again, that's pretty standard for any footprint chart. Last traded tick. Again, some of this is just personal preference, right? Do you want your POC? Do you want your value area highlighted? I do. I think you'll find that by default. Just continuous POCs. Again, this is much of what you'll find in the Ninja version. Just port it over here to Sierra. So I think the best is to leave this to you to kind of wander through and look here and go, okay, value area. Okay, maybe I want to do something with value area or value area gaps. I think that's something that I will often highlight. So that might be something that you would want to emphasize here. So let's see, value area. Let's come down here. Oh, let's say I want value area gaps enabled, and let's say, oh, I want a brighter color for my value area gap here. So here, I don't know that I would use that, but let's add that and say, okay, so for my value area gaps here, I'm just going to do it super bright so you can see the point, right? So here's my value area, and now I've got a gap to a new one, gap to a new one. I haven't done the other side here, but I'm on a day like Friday, as you might suspect, a whole lot of value area gaps, particularly on a 5-minute chart here where we're gap, 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 nothing. This can be really valuable because this is what you're looking for, is just signs of a trend. What you want to avoid is where we just have rotation, right? This is where you get eaten up. Again, it's a 5-minute chart, but that's the point of that. So once the market starts to really move and you have value areas gapping like this, and it's a pretty extreme day and pretty extreme on a 5-minute chart to see this, but that's the kind of thing to be looking for. Now here, if I wanted to brighten the red, I could do the same thing. Here's a value area gap down, nothing, 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 value area gap here. So all I've done is just brighten the colors. It would be the same thing here, stacked imbalances. Color choices, these are just individual preferences. You're not changing the underlying. Now, you could, in fact, change what you want to see in an imbalance. I think we have at 300, essentially a 3-to-1. So if you wanted that to be 400, 600, right? Those are individual choices that you might want to make a change based on your experience working with a footprint chart. Again, if you're new to it, starting with the basic defaults is a good starting point. Tweak to your heart's content based on your own preferences as you develop more expertise working with a footprint chart. Oh, I think to kind of finish through the walkthrough here, again, pullback column, that's unique to that's a projection based on the last swing high low of the preceding candle. That is unique to Sierra. You can fuss with that. Right now, the default here is probably a good starting point. Down below here, now if I go to footprint settings, now we're getting into what do I want to see above and below the bar, and then do I want the summary table? So if I go to settings here in footprint, okay, well now I've got some continuation of things that I wanted to see on the bars, right? Again, sweeps, volume sequencing, reversals, imbalances, unfinished business. Very common features within a footprint chart. We just have our own style of doing it, and here's how you would access it. So if I cancel that and then I go down to the last one, well, now I'm into the summary rows. Now here you can see what I have. Summary row 1, I have delta signals, then summary row 2, delta, then min-max delta, then volume. Now there's more rows available. You put in there whatever you might like to see, right? Here are all your choices. Again, this is the default. It's a good starting point. Just to draw, really the point here is to be drawing your attention when you get dramatic shifts in delta, right? Thus the color pump down here. Color choice is entirely up to you. Do you even want to see the bar stats, right? What do you want to see here? Do you want the bar stats on top of the bars, only below, or both, right? Again, just totally personal preference. Bar markers, well, we have these individual symbols here. So we can put that. So here's a drop and a rise, a delta divergence. Here's a thin print. Right? So you're getting little abbreviations, thin prints, zero print, market sweeps. Those are above, right? Again, it's where do you want to see it? We're giving you lots of choices. You want to see it above, below, or both? Lots of choices there. Do you want the delta bars? Now, I currently have them turned off, but if you wanted to apply them, you could turn them on here, right? Change those colors based on your preference. Right? Again, that's just color choices. But do you want them on? Do you not want them on? Some people like it, some don't, right? I tend to keep them off, right? There's no right or wrong. It's just personal preference. Then you could set the height, right? I had those squished down a bit. If you wanted them higher, you could do that. And then in terms of striping, right? Now you'll see here, so I have the first one being the slingshot here. So I have the slingshot here, and then here's a delta divergence, here's a delta drop. Now I don't have stripes on those, but the signals are still firing. So again, this is personal preference, right? Now here's a delta trap, right? So these are two that I like, right? So thus they're in the default, and I think you might find those useful. So these are multi-bar patterns. So when I see something like that, and I've got a potential here for a delta trap. Well, I mean, how'd that work out? Right? It's a 4-bar pattern. So we see the delta drop, 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 drop here, and then here's the signal here, and then what comes off of that, right? Pretty good signal on that day. Here's one where okay, so this is a slingshot. So you have delta dropping, 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 and then we get a big burst, and then we get a reversal in the delta, right? So we actually had delta divergence here. Now that divergence, you have some options in terms of what you set there. That can be candle divergence, or it could be the high or low of the day. At that moment in time, that was the high of the day, which is why you can see the little green stripe there. That was the high of the day at that time. So we had a down print candle that gave us a new high. So we had delta divergence at the high. Right now, of course, the high carries on. But you'll see that every one of these divergences, that was the high of the day at that moment in time. That was the high. We don't have divergence here because this is an up candle, right? And there's the end of the day. And then here's the unique feature to Sierra where they put this on the other side. So this hasn't actually happened yet. It's showing you the potential footprint from the last candle. So it's a unique feature to Sierra. Some people like it. Some people don't pay attention to it. I don't put a lot of emphasis on it because I'm really watching what's happening here and if we're in a multi-bar pattern, but it's an option for you. I think we've covered just about everything. We come back down here. This is all of the stats, markers, stripes, and then all of your alerts down here as well. So you might say, okay, if I get a delta trap, I want an alert to fire. So please fire that based on whatever the condition is that you want that alert to fire. Again, these are regardless of the platform or the indicator, these are relatively common, right? So that should make sense to you if you've had some experience working with any indicator. They're all going to be somewhat similar. So this is just the uniqueness of Sierra. Unlike Ninja, where we can do some things with drop-down menus. Here everything is right-click, and you're going to get to it here, and then so you get to it pretty quickly. And often, I think what you'll find is there's a lot of customization when you first invest in the indicator, or even when you're trialing it, just to get it, okay, once I get it to what I like, then rarely am I back in here making a lot of changes. It wouldn't be something I'd be changing throughout the course of the day. Maybe from day to day, I might spot something that I want to emphasize on the next day, so I might give it a stripe or a color or a marker, something along those lines. But for the most part, once you get it set to what you like, you won't change it too dramatically. So getting access to this, the speed of that access really shouldn't make much difference to you. Let me cancel this. The time to make those kind of changes is not while you're in the midst of a trading day. All right, I think that covers most of the key features here that would help you if you're just getting started with this. Again, if you're familiar, if you've got a comfort level with Sierra, this will be an easy install application that's just tweaking to what your preferences are for Sierra. If you're new to Sierra, well, there's a bit of a learning curve, right? It's incredibly deep, incredibly stable, and very mature product. So I think for many people that's the attraction to it. It tends to attract professional traders because of that depth and because of its stability. But I will say there's a bit of a learning curve, right? So I've been going through that myself as I transition from Ninja, where I'm very comfortable, to learning how to move around quickly within Sierra. And there is a bit of a learning curve. For some of you that have had issues with Ninja, this may be a very worthwhile alternative to consider. Right, so again, right, the point of our trial is so that you can be sure it's a good fit for you before you make an investment in it. So it's a 7-day trial, 7 calendar days, 5 trading days. So it should give you enough time to determine whether or not it's going to be a value add to your trading experience. And that's why we do the trial that way. So with that, I will just encourage you to customize, play with it, test, tweak to your heart's content. And we'll be back with some more application and examples of trade setups over time. But right now, it's just to introduce to you that this is available. Okay, with that, I will sign off and see you on the next one.